All set?
You're live. And we're
There.
now.
There's the magic voice that tells us we're all set.
Hi, how's everybody?
You got everybody? Okay. My name is Darius Shanfar. I am the treasurer and the chair of the City of Albany Industrial Development Agency. Chairing our finance committee meeting here today. Our first order of business are the minutes having been previously distributed. I would call for a motion to waive the reading and accept them as presented. Someone? Susan? Tony second?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion? Any comments, criticisms, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval of the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Right. I should say we are, I think we're one short on the finance committee currently. Leak is expected. And also Bob Schofield from the board as a whole is also here joining us today. Hopefully today will be a brief meeting since we have no report from the chief financial officer nor unfinished business, but we do have some new business, which is TRPS Lark LLC, which is on the corner of Lark Street and Morris Street, kitty corner to, I think, a sister development, redeveloping our old firehouse and other property behind it. So I'll hand this over to Andy or Tom to give us a rundown.
Great. Thank you, Chair. I'll briefly introduce this project and I will turn it over to the project applicant, Mr. Stein, who is here with us today. And we also have some visuals that were part of the materials package that was not only posted online, but distributed to committee and board members that we can show as well. The project proposes to construct approximately 37,500 square foot, 4-story apartment complex containing approximately 40 residential apartment units. A portion of the currently vacant project site was previously owned by the Albany Community Development Agency. A memo that also has this map was part of the materials that was distributed, as well as the application. And with that, for a more detailed synopsis of the proposed project, I will turn it over to Mr. Stein.
Yeah, so this is a 40-unit, all 1-bedroom apartments. The focus of the building is going to be on what we've been sort of calling workforce housing, which is lower than market rate, but not affordable as per the code and the state. So we're running it ourselves. We've been approved by planning. We'll have, we're still working on the exact number of parking spots, but there'll be off-site parking, as well as there's street parking as well, around the corner. We're really, this is the typical floor plan. We're trying to keep the units pretty sizable for 1-bedrooms at this kind of, for this kind of a building. They're probably in the 760, 780 range for average. Washer and dryer in unit. So amenities that way. We'll have lots of bike racks and things like that. Again, trying to be a focus of, as has been with the other projects in that neighborhood, walk and or bike to work. And that's what we have. I know that's the floor plan. Andy, is there something else on there too? That's a current rendering. This isn't final, but one of the things that we work with is try to make everything look fairly, typical to what we've done down the street, which is just 2 blocks away from the 85 and 86 Dana. But we will be changing a lot of the facade there to, once I get into and meet with that project that was mentioned previously across the street, we want to sort of match that a little bit too. So it fits more into the neighborhood. And that's what we were asked to do as a favor from the neighborhood association as well.
Terrific. We don't have any action we have to take on this project today. Does anybody have any questions on the project? Mr. Stein, maybe you could talk a little bit about, there's a question that often comes up as a parking, what your experience has been, because you have other projects around in the area as well, and the need for parking by the tenants.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just like with those projects, the only difference will be, you know, I probably, if you've heard, I tried to be a little bit more creative and that didn't go anywhere. So this will be very standard and typical. The only difference with this project and the other project is the parking will be won't be on site, but it'll be within approximately 300 feet of the building, leasable spaces, and the number that matches the USDO, and working with planning department on that currently. And what we found is, and you know, one of the things when we talk about workforce, one of the interesting facts within Albany, they found downtown where there's workforce housing, walk or bike, that it has about 50% of the requirement of the building that's not workforce. Being that the people inside, the market rate, it's lower than market rate, and often they either don't have cars, the people who would utilize this, and or the tenants or take advantage of the walk to work a little bit more so than even market rate. And my garages right now, there's I have I think 25 spots for 36 units, and we still have a spot open. And they don't park on the street because with that building I had studios, and for the studios I found very similar to workforce because they're lower than the one bedrooms and they don't bring cars. But that said, there'll be parking if people do have cars and want to use it. It's just, you know, it'll just, like I said, we'll be within 300 feet, just a little different than the others because they won't be underneath.
So your observation, the market's not, the market isn't one parking spot per a unit, basically, because it's just not being utilized.
It's not in my market rate buildings where,
Yep.
and it's definitely not going to be in workforce.
Okay, thank you.
Chair,
Does
will
anybody?
you entertain a question, please?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Ron, just wondering where in that area you're managing to find spaces within 300 feet? Seems like a pretty tall order. Just
I'm on it now. I don't have an update, but I've been working with the planning department just to get the details down. So it's been a little delayed, but it's not as, there are several options. I know it doesn't seem like it. It might not be in all one place, so it doesn't have to be contiguous. That's one answer I'll give. And the other is, as soon as I have that detail, I should have something by next meeting where I can share that.
that'd be great. Also wondering about coordination with public transportation, there's a number of bike racks available, I believe, in that area, those CDPHP bikes, any coordination being done there?
I'll be coordinating with them as well as working with the Boys and Girls Club as well.
Oh, great.
I've met with them several times. It's part of the my promise to ACDA that I put within the bid to work with them as well. And they've been terrific. And I've been actually, they had no idea, but I've been a Boys and Girls Club donor and member and working with teams for 30 years in New Rochelle. Now that I live here in Albany, I was looking forward to meeting them as well to participate.
Okay. Is there any way to do particular outreach to that targeted workforce to ensure or to help to ensure that we have that balance with more of the people who actually have access to a walkable office location, that they would be the ones naturally attracted to this building? Otherwise, it
Yeah.
could be, you know, a situation where we do have a lot more people with cars trying to come in from outside because
No,
of
very, very good point. It won't be a TDM as I had originally proposed, but I still am going to be doing some of those components. So my marketing, my building manager who also does the marketing and the rentals, we have specific ideas of how to target and market for that kind of and it's usually through the bigger employers of the area, including Albany Med. So I have a really, really great relationship with Albany Med, especially through the old Ralphs. And I meet with them once a week to discuss all kinds of issues. They would be open to, because we're looking for some of their employees there, maybe not the nurses and doctors, but there's a lot of other people in that building that would benefit from that building as well. So what we could do is start pre-marketing within Albany Med system, also be looking towards downtown because it's kind of on that border, and some of the other local employers first to see if anybody there wants to go. So we can time it by pre-marketing to them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
So I do want to jump in on the parking question quickly. As Susan rightly points out, really for the IDA's purposes, we're focusing on sort of two issues surrounding that: the marketability of the property and questions surrounding that, and also how that would financially affect the project. As Andy and Ron both mentioned, this project does have its approvals through the Planning and Land Use Board. They are contingent on Ron figuring out the parking solution for that. So really for our purposes, it's really looking at, again, the marketability of the property. And so thank you, Susan, for raising, the marketing plan, and Ron for providing some detail on that. And then staff has started its preliminary analysis. Obviously we've gone through to make sure that the application is complete and reasonable looking through. And in that preliminary analysis, in discussions with Ron, really understanding that the parking expense will be a pass-through expense, so it won't hit the project pro forma. So whatever the ultimate solution is there does not change the financial dynamics of the project. So we are in good shape to start reviewing the project as applied for. So really, we're really focused at this point on the financial need and the merits of the project. We can have sort of planning, is already on deck to be filling out those parking solutions.
Great.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions, issues?
Yeah, Darius, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Hi, Ron. I'm just wondering about any response you've received from the neighborhood, or have you been in touch with the neighborhood associations, or have you gotten any feedback from people who live in the neighborhood?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I've met with, I'm a member of the PSNA Park South, and I'm also not just a member, but I live in it, that neighborhood as well. So the association is the Park South Neighborhood Association, PSNA. I've met and presented with them about this project, one preliminary way before, and then two specific on the project prior to the planning meeting. But again, the feedback was mixed, to be fair. But that was when I was proposing a TDM with no parking. Now their concern was that we don't have the right proper amount of parking. So now that I'm following the code and not trying to limit spots through a TDM, there shouldn't be really any concerns, other than there's a couple always people who don't want any buildings anywhere. But that's not how you build a city.
Yeah, no, I'm not concerned about the parking thing, but I did note that your approval was conditioned on you finding the 24 spots, and that's still your plan, right? 24 spots within the 300 feet radius.
Again, I think you have an email from me, whatever the actual detail, because there's other ways to lower that number through the USDO. So whatever the USDO and the total number of spots are, yes. And I'm already have contracts and ready to go. I just need to finalize on the exact number so I know who to take from where.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, issues? All right. Well, there's no action that is required of us today. I do want to just speak to the fact that I am a board member of ACDA, so I did vote to approve the transfer of the property to Mr. Stein out of the ACDA. I don't believe that creates any conflict or anything like that, but I should at least disclose that. So with that, I would thank Mr. Stein for coming in.
There's one other update.
Yep.
Pearl Street's going along on schedule. Trying to stay on budget. This very, 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 and got an even worse environment to try to build the building. But it's happening. Framing is started. The concrete's all poured. And you should see the frames up in the next 3 weeks.
Great.
And then on Hackett, that's well underway, on schedule. Shoring is near complete. We've started the underground tanks for the retention of the water. I just got to get the city to fix that one drain on the other side of the street because they're still clogging. But my drains are clear and there's no water on my side, so I just need that one fixed. And we're on schedule for that. And once spring really comes, since it's snowing today, we'll start digging out and getting the concrete foundation ready. On
Well,
schedule.
just so you know, the kids are always fascinated with all the construction materials and the big holes, and they're always wondering, what's going up there? What's going up there? So
I have
tell 'em.
people sitting with chairs, sometimes eating their lunch, watching the machines. And, you know, when they were rolling out the trucks, digging the dirt, they got the big, it is a pretty massive project. So it doesn't seem as big as it does now.
Yeah. All right. Well,
But
thank you
going
again
well.
for coming in. Thanks for the update.
Thanks, everybody.
So from here, we'll move on to agency update from Sarah, I believe.
Agency update right now is all about compliance, so I think we can move directly into the compliance update. We are in March, believe it or not, and despite it's like a snow globe outside my window right now. If you guys aren't looking at a window, it's totally worth it. But we are in March, and that means Paris reporting and financial audit. So we have a pretty intense audit committee scheduled for tomorrow, but we're gonna, because we do have a larger contingent of the board here today. As you all know, we do take the annual reporting very seriously here. You saw a draft of it last month at our committee meeting. This month we do have a better draft, but if you can think of, last month as rehearsal, today and tomorrow is really dress rehearsal. They still won't be completely for final production until we hit submit on those Paris reports. At the end of the month. We are still working back and forth. Andy and Emma are doing an amazing job, really working with every single one of those actively reporting projects to ensure that what they're reporting, one, that they did report, and then what they're reporting is accurate and backed up by the reasonable documentation. We do this, at multiple meetings every year because we want to make sure that every board member has had an opportunity to really see all of the reports that have come back and get to see the drafts of the annual Paris report. You all do have that in your emails from the audit committee materials. So if you're not on the audit committee and haven't had a chance yet to take a look at the audit packet, please do that. What we'll do today is Andy will give a little bit of an overview of each of some sort of highlights from the reporting that has come back. And then really dive into any projects that would be triggered for review by our recapture policy. I want to remind the group that we have for a number of years now had a recapture policy in place for projects that were approved after 2016. In and after 2016, there are a couple of projects that we had proactively put those on prior to that year. That policy does require that the board review any project reporting fewer than 80% of the committed jobs on site, any project that is complete and not still under construction. That is a required review. There's no required action. It's up to the board to determine if action is necessary. Those actions can include taking no action. It can include terminating the pilot, amending the pilot, or recapturing benefits, with recapturing benefits being the most significant action taken. I'll spoil Andy's thunder. At this point, staff is not recommending a recapture or amendment or termination of any of the projects that are reporting to us this year based on the responses that came back. If you'll recall, we do require that every actively reporting project submit a jobs form to us that supplies us with the number of full-time equivalent jobs on site, any construction jobs that they had reported at the year for the whole year. For permanent jobs, that is a snapshot at December 31st of the reporting year. So it's whoever they had as of December 31 for that year. It also requires them to provide us with a description of any overage or underreporting on that jobs number. And so from there, that's what staff really goes back and forth with them to chase down. I would also note with the some of the recapturable projects that Andy's going to walk through, a number of them are not receiving real property tax assistance through the IDA. A number of those were just sales and mortgage recording tax as well. So he'll highlight those. So with that very lengthy preamble, I'll kick it over to Andy if there are no sort of overall general questions about reporting procedures. You guys are mostly old hat at this, so you've seen it a bunch of times.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. While everyone is pulling up the straight lease tracking sheet, which is the larger one, has bold numbers on the side, kind of so we can follow along project by project as you pull that up. Excuse me. I'll give a couple high level statistics to Sarah's point. Overall, for just creeping into the second week of March, staff believes we're in very good position to have all the data in, finalized, and reviewed prior to the March 31st deadline, which is great. To that point, we have received 70 of the 73 straight lease projects jobs reporting forms. That's 96%. Additionally, 51 of the 73 straight lease projects, that's 70%, are reporting at or above 80% of what their initial job commitments were, which is also great. Also, as Sarah noted, we do expect some numbers in here to change a little bit as we move through March and we really refine and triple check what was submitted. So as Sarah noted, we will be going through each underreporting project on a very detailed basis at the audit committee. Today, we will be focusing on any project that is underreporting that is subject to a recapture provision. Quickly stepping back, what we've seen this year, just to kind of generalize what's come in is really kind of four categories. We've seen the hotels that we have here in the city of Albany that utilize IDA assistance, certainly underreporting due to COVID, which is not a surprise. And hopefully we can kind of see those numbers turn around as we emerge from the pandemic. The second kind of bucket that we've seen is some projects that year over year have underreported for various reasons, some being the tenancy, which for a couple of projects is why the IDA stepped in to begin with, some being COVID related, in addition to tenancy issues. The third are projects that have underreported but are not subject to recapture. And the fourth are really the projects that have underreported and are subject to recapture. And we will jump into those now. The first of those is, when I say line, it will be in reference to the bold number on the left, line 3, 1475 Washington Avenue. This project reported 5.5 full-time equivalent jobs when they committed to 7. They have informed us that they did lose one employee voluntarily and another was terminated. These jobs are being actively recruited and are posted, and they are looking to fill them as soon as possible. If anyone has any other related questions on what the project is or where it is, by all means, just jump in and we'll do our best to kind of review that as well. The next up, we slide down to line 49. That is 351 Diamond Development. That project is Mount Hope Commons. This is a project that received only sales and mortgage recording tax exemptions. And I should also step back, I apologize. We're about to go through 10 projects that are subject to recapture. 5 of those 10 only receive sales and mortgage recording tax exemptions, this being one of them. Of note, you can see the project had originally committed to 150 full-time jobs on site. This year, they reported 97, which is a large uptick from the previous year. That's indicative of some new businesses coming onto the site, including a jeweler, a Popeyes, and anyone who has had the chance to drive past that site recently, it is still under construction. There's a gas station being built out. So we only expect this number of 97 to tick upwards in the future. So while they are under reporting, they have made major headways in their jobs reporting numbers. Sliding down one line, Harmony Mills South LLC. This is the redevelopment project at 90 State Street. I believe this number has already changed since we had sent out our documents on Friday. I believe what's in front of you may say 2. We have since received some updated reporting that 4 jobs are on site. If you look at the spreadsheet initially in the application for this project, the project beneficiary had committed to retaining 4 jobs on site and creating 1 job. As we see now, there are 4 jobs retained on site. This project is still under construction. So the 1 job to be created has not happened yet, which we would expect that to occur at completion. Sliding down a couple lines to 53 Morris Place LLC. This is the residential new construction apartment complex in Park South that had a ribbon cutting in the fourth quarter or late third quarter of 2021 at 105 Morris Street. They've reported 1.5 out of the 2 jobs on site. They just came online in 2021. So we'd expect to see in the next reporting year, this number to tick up to the full 2 employees on site. Sliding down to line 56. This is 16 Sheridan Ave, the Nick. This is also a project that received sales and mortgage recording tax only. The project has reported 1 full-time job as opposed to the 12 that were originally committed to. These jobs are in reference to the yard, the Hatchet House. While there are numerous employees on site, a couple of factors have really contributed to the lower than expected reporting. Due to the pandemic, they still have some limited hours. And they have quite a few, again, people on site, I believe was 9, but just based on hours, the way the math worked out, they're at 1 full-time employee, but they are up and running. They have completed that project, both the residential portion and the commercial portion in a manner that was originally represented on the application. Sliding down 1 line to 57, Makura Inc. This is the 4 Points Sheridan Hotel, also located within Mount Hope Commons. Again, hotel underreporting by roughly 8 jobs, 17 out of 25. And when speaking with them, certainly due to COVID, they haven't yet hit where they have hoped to be and forecast to be by the year 2021. Of note, this was sales and mortgage recording tax only. Sliding down 1 additional line, excuse me, to line 58, 420 Broadway LLC. This is the mixed use project at the corner of State and Broadway that houses Colson's on the ground floor. We are working with this project beneficiary to refine this figure. Although we have a 0 here, which is what was reported in further conversations with the project beneficiary, it was indeed uncovered that the ground floor space was open as at December 31st, 2021. So we do expect this number to meet or exceed the 2 full-time job position number here. So we would expect to have this change and hopefully be able to update either the audit committee or the board next week with this number. This is also just a sales and mortgage recording tax only project. The next two lines, 59 and 60, will kind of take as one, so to speak. This is 526 Central Ave, the affordable housing mixed-use project, the Swinburne. So the Swinburne did come online in 2021. As the IDA structured this in a manner that we do report on this project as two separate legal entities. The residential portion is reporting 3 out of 4 jobs. And the reason for that being the superintendent on site was able to take on a little bit more of the duties than initially thought. So they've achieved some efficiencies there. And on the commerce portion, project is reporting 32 of 78 jobs. However, one of the largest expected tenants is just moving into and fitting out their space this month, that being Whitney Young. So we do expect this number to increase significantly for reporting next year. They do also have a small grocery store on the ground floor. They also have Equinox operating out of that building, and they anticipate they do have a small medical testing facility that's operating now, but they expect that to increase as well in terms of jobs once the health center is fully operational. Sliding down one more line to 61. This is Capitol Repertory Theater. Certainly they, similar to hotels, suffered some real hardships due to the pandemic and their business model. So they reported 19 fewer jobs than they had committed to. They did give quite a detailed response as to why they unfortunately did have to lay off or furlough a good portion of their employees. However, they are ramping back up to hopefully hire back and get back to a full schedule in 2022. So we'd expect to see those jobs numbers met or exceeded as well. And the last of the projects that have a recapture provision that are under reporting, that are not under construction, by the way, that have been completed is 45 Columbia Street, line 63. This was the mixed-use project that contains interior parking as well as apartments on the top floors. We're working to get a little more detail on this one, but they've reported 0 jobs on the one that was committed. They have potentially seen some efficiencies with some of the neighboring properties in the area and the maintenance that's going into those buildings, but we will refine exactly how that efficiency was achieved so we have a better explanation, again, moving forward into this month. The rest of the spreadsheet you really see from pretty much line 65 down are projects that either just were approved and closed in 2021 or late 2020 and are currently under construction or are expected to commence construction shortly. Therefore, we would not expect any significant jobs reporting out of those projects. And that does it for the straight lease IDA projects.
You want to move on to the bond compliance?
Sure, absolutely. Give everybody a chance to get to that separate PDF document that we had sent out. Again, I'll speak generally. For the IDA bonds, we have all our jobs forms in. We approach the bonds reporting slightly differently. Project beneficiaries are required to submit not only a jobs form that is very similar to what a straight lease project would submit, but working in conjunction with our accountants, Teal Becker Tremonti, we also reach out through Teal Becker to the financial institutions that hold the paper on these projects to confirm outstanding balances. So we call those the bond confirms. So that's one more aspect that a bond has to do in terms of reporting. So we have all jobs forms in for active IDA bonds, and we are just chasing down 2 con firms. We'll be touching base with Teal Becker Tremonti this week. They very may well have those already. If so, we'll get an updated spreadsheet out. Generally, overall, projects reported surprisingly well in terms of jobs. There are some educational institutions or related institutions such as SUNY Research Foundation that underreported and that are currently trying to staff up. We had a couple such as Renaissance Corp that kind of fell victim to the great resignation, if you will, that are also trying to staff up. But overall, the reporting was pretty consistent with what we've seen in the past, with just kind of a few outliers due to COVID. And we'll be going through these again, line by line at the audit committee Thursday.
Great. We'll save the CRC bond compliance for the next meeting. Anything else? Let me,
Nothing from us.
well, I guess if that's the case, then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Let's
Aye.
go on to